She's the priciest actress in Marvel and Earth's supreme sorcerer. Every second costs 300,000 RMB. She guards Earth by using dark dimension energy for spells and weapons. A wave of her hand changes the whole city. One hit can send a soul into the multiverse, and drawing a circle lets her travel Earth, making her live for thousands of years. Her skills are super cool, but they're really costly, so she was written off early. Her successor is the only Marvel hero who saved Earth with words. He's Stephen Strange, a top surgeon before magic. A surgeon with million-dollar hands, driving a Lamborghini. Living in a mansion with a cabinet full of luxury watches. He's not a rich kid. Everything he has was earned through his own efforts. A patient with a severe head injury was in critical condition, but Stephen, while listening to music and joking with colleagues, removed the bullet in the time it took to play a song, bringing the patient back from the brink of brain death. Stephen thrived in the medical world with just his hands, but he was quite arrogant and lacked empathy, refusing surgeries that weren't high-paying or challenging. He chose patients based on interest and mood because, in his mind, surgery meant wealth and status, not saving lives. Until an accident completely changed him. The story begins in the library of Kamar Taj, where a group of men in black broke in and brutally killed the librarian. The Ancient One's disciple obtained a book of time magic and tore out 2 pages. After taking the pages on time, he prepared to leave. At this moment, the Ancient One appeared just in time. The disciple Kaecilius, upon seeing his master, quickly led his followers to flee. The Ancient One swiftly pursued Kaecilius and his group. The master and disciple had a falling out for some reason, and the Ancient One, with a wave of her hand, transported them to a mirror dimension, then easily subdued them with magic. Seeing he wasn't a match for Jiu Yi, Cassie opened a portal and escaped with his men. Jiu Yi, strong as he was, had to let them go. He also opened a portal to return to reality. The scene shifts to Stephen driving a supercar to a banquet, but he crashes because he was looking at his phone. Stephen is rushed to the hospital. After a while, doctors save his life, but his hands are shattered. Stephen realizes he can't hold a scalpel anymore, ending his career. Over 6 months, he spends all his money on surgeries, but his hands remain unhealed. Stephen becomes very depressed, often lashing out at his girlfriend. Just when his life hits rock bottom, a recovery report gives him hope. A patient was once diagnosed with a full body fracture and was expected to live in a wheelchair. Now, he moves agilely on the basketball court. Stephen finds him and shows him his hands, and the man understands. He tells Stephen he was healed by a sorcerer at Kamar Taj. Hearing there might be hope for his hands, Stephen spends all his savings on a ticket to Nepal. He asks locals for Kamar Taj's address, catching a black man's attention. Stephen searches for days, wandering aimlessly, until thugs target him for his watch. The black man appears and saves him. This man is Mordo, the senior disciple of the magic monastery. He takes Stephen to a discreet monastery, saying this is Kamar Taj. Stephen, skeptical, walks in. With Mordo's help, Stephen meets the legendary Ancient One. Excited, he forgets his manners and urgently asks if she can heal his hands. The Ancient One calmly pours him tea and tells Stephen that by adjusting his spiritual power, his body can heal. Stephen thinks the Ancient One has mastered cell regeneration. The Ancient One says what medicine can't do, mysticism can. By relying on strong inner will, crippled hands can heal themselves. These words are unacceptable to Stephen, who believes in science, and he accuses the Ancient One of being a fraud. How could there be a soul? To help Stephen understand, the Ancient One gives him a palm strike. The soul returned. Stephen thinks everything he sees is an illusion, probably because of hallucinogens in the tea he drank. The Ancient One gives him a lesson, showing him the multiverse. As he experiences the thrill, Stephen's mind is blown by the strange universes, realizing magic is real and he's just a speck in the vast cosmos. What mysteries lie beyond the reach of your senses? At the root of existence, mind and matter meet. Thoughts shape reality. This universe is just one of an infinite number. Worlds without end. Some benevolent and life-giving, others filled with malice and hunger. Dark places where powers older than time lie, ravenous and waiting. Who are you in this vast multiverse, Mr. Strange? After traveling through many dimensions, Stephen's understanding was overturned, thrown out. At the door, refusing to leave, the Ancient One saw arrogance and ambition in Stephen, reminding him of his former apprentice, Kaecilius. The Ancient One didn't want Stephen to go astray like Kaecilius. Mordo reminded the Ancient One that the stolen pages were still with Kaecilius. If Kaecilius deciphered the secrets, he could summon the demon Dormammu, plunging Earth into darkness. Mordo noticed a power within Stephen that might be helpful. Ultimately, the Ancient One accepted Stephen for the greater good. After becoming a disciple, Stephen began his magical journey. In the first lesson, the Ancient One told him that with spells and gestures, he could draw energy from the multiverse. Energy can summon shields and weapons. It sounds easy, but it requires diligent practice. As a newbie, Stephen needed to read many magical books to understand the powerful and mysterious magic. He met the new librarian, Wang, at the library. While borrowing books, Stephen found a shelf of the Ancient One's private collection, only understandable by the Sorcerer Supreme. Stephen took out 10 magical books and started reading, discovering some pages were torn out. Wang explained that these pages were stolen by the Ancient One's former apprentice, Kaecilius. Kaecilius was stubborn, arrogant, and ambitious. He was once the Ancient One's prized student but always complained about not being taught the secret of immortality. Driven by greed for magic, Kaecilius stole forbidden secrets and betrayed his masters. He now knows how to summon Dormammu and draws power from the dark dimension. Stephen left with the book, saying Wong's story left him uneasy. Soon after, with some understanding of magic, Stephen began formally learning spells. Every novice sorcerer receives a personal relic. With it, they can draw portals to anywhere they wish to go. But as a newbie, he struggled. Others could open portals easily, but Stephen only made sparks. The Ancient One checked in on their progress. Stephen thought his crippled hands were the issue. The Ancient One said it wasn't about his hands. To unlock his potential, the Ancient One took him to Everest and left. In the freezing cold, Stephen, in short sleeves, had to focus to survive. As time passed, Mordo worried. Then, a golden circle appeared. Stephen did it. From then, he had an epiphany, regained confidence, and the confident man returned. With his memory and learning skills, his magic improved fast. He drew circles under Wong's nose and secretly read books. From then on, Stephen was deeply into magic, even using his soul to study while sleeping, mastering time management. Over time, he could use magic as a weapon. Seeing Stephen's rapid learning pace, the general courses could no longer satisfy him, so the Ancient One taught him a new skill, the mirror dimension. This is a virtual world created by magic where nothing affects the real world. In the mirror dimension, the Ancient One showed Stephen the concept of folding space. A sorcerer can change objects in this space with imagination. Later, Mordo began to teach him about various magical artifacts. Stephen asked when he could have his own artifact. Mordo said when you're ready, the artifact will choose you. On a rainy night, when Wong was not in the library, Stephen took down the time magic book and began to study. The book mentioned the Eye of Agamotto, which was conveniently located behind the library. Driven by curiosity, Stephen put on the Eye of Agamotto and followed the book's instructions to open it. He formed hand seals, and the Eye of Agamotto on his chest successfully opened. The time stone emitted a dazzling green light. He placed the magic seal on his hand and began testing it on a leftover apple. After mastering the method to manipulate time, he turned to the incomplete chapters of the book and used magic to restore the pages stolen by Kaecilius, thus uncovering their secrets. Just as he wanted to keep reading, a spatial paradox appeared, and Stephen almost got trapped. Luckily, Mordo and Wong arrived in time to stop him. Stephen got a scolding because using time spells recklessly can cause chaos, and one might get stuck in a time loop. Mordo was surprised that Stephen learned such a complex spell so easily, thinking he was born for magic. So, Mordo and Wong explained the origin and purpose of sorcerers. Heroes like the Avengers protect Earth from natural threats, while sorcerers protect it from supernatural ones. The title of Sorcerer Supreme is passed down through generations, with the Ancient One being the current Sorcerer Supreme. The first Sorcerer Supreme, Agamotto, created this artifact and named it the Eye of Agamotto. Agamotto built 3 powerful sanctuaries on Earth. The sanctuaries are in Hong Kong, New York, and London. Together, they form a magical barrier protecting Earth from other dimensional enemies, suppressing Dormammu in the dark dimension. Dormammu wants to destroy the sanctuaries and consume the universe. The library has 3 doors leading to the different sanctuaries, each guarded by a sorcerer, all disciples of the Ancient One. After learning everything, Stephen panicked, saying he only came to heal his hands and didn't want to join any magical war. Just then, the door to the London sanctuary opened, and Kaecilius had already invaded London. He had fully submitted to Dormammu, gaining immense magical power from him. A massive shockwave sent Stephen flying, and he ended up in another doorway, finding himself at the New York Sanctuary. The New York Sanctuary has 3 windows leading to different realms, and it houses many artifacts. One red floating cloak seemed to be watching him. At that moment, Kaecilius attacked, killing the sanctuary's guardian. Stephen quickly used his martial arts to fight back, but he was outnumbered. He took the chance to run, but Kaecilius used spatial magic. Seeing no escape, Stephen had to fight. Kaecilius toyed with him using advanced spells. Suddenly, Stephen had an idea. He seized the moment, jumped, and kicked one of them through a portal into the desert, then threw another into the rainforest with a shoulder throw. Now, it was just Stephen and Kaecilius in a one-on-one battle. After a fight, Stephen was clearly no match for Kaecilius. He was kicked down the stairs by Kaecilius, but then the magical cloak in the temple appeared just in time, and thus Doctor Strange was born. During the fight, the cloak seemed to have a mind of its own. Stephen wanted to grab an axe, but the cloak wouldn't let him. After 2 rounds of tugging, Stephen had no choice but to follow the cloak's lead and take down the binding armor from the wall, throwing it at Kaecilius. When Kaecilius asked Stephen who he was, Stephen called himself Doctor Strange. The word doctor in English can mean doctor or PhD, and strange means odd or peculiar. So, Kaecilius misunderstood and called him Doctor Strange. In the movie, the name Doctor Strange comes from this misunderstanding. Stephen asked Kaecilius why he summoned Dormammu. Kaecilius replied that everything in the world has life and death, but only in Dormammu's dark dimension can one be free from time. By bringing Dormammu to Earth, everything on Earth could gain eternal life. He wanted everyone to have immortality, unlike the Ancient One, who selfishly kept this secret. The Ancient One lived so long by secretly using the time magic book to draw energy from the dark dimension to extend her life. Stephen was skeptical of his words. Just then, Stephen realized his mystical realm was gone. As he turned around, he was stabbed in the heart by one of Kaecilius's followers. Stephen was thrown down the stairs, and just as the enemy was about to finish him off, the magical cloak came to his rescue again. Stephen quickly picked up the fallen sling ring and opened a portal, arriving at the hospital where he worked to find his ex-girlfriend Christine. She helped Stephen onto the operating table, and soon after, he fell into a coma. At the brink of life and death, Stephen's soul left his body to guide Christine on what to do. Meanwhile, Kaecilius's follower also used astral projection to escape the cloak's hold. She followed the portal to the hospital and found Stephen, and the two began fighting in the operating room. Because Stephen's body was too weak, he was at a disadvantage during the fight. As his heartbeat weakened, Christine quickly used a defibrillator to save him. The electric shock filled Stephen with power, and he successfully defeated the enemy. After waking up, Stephen briefly said goodbye to Christine and returned to the New York Sanctum. By then, Kaecilius had already fled. The Ancient One and Mordo arrived and found that the Cloak of Levitation had chosen Stephen as its master. Even the Ancient One remarked how rare this was. She then appointed Stephen as the new guardian of the Sanctum, responsible for protecting it. Did the Ancient One draw power from the Dark Dimension for immortality? The Ancient One didn't explain and left the temple? However, Stephen seemed to have found the answer. As a devout follower, Mordo didn't believe it and argued with Stephen. Just then, Kaecilius returned with his followers to destroy the temple. To prevent the battle from affecting the real world, Stephen opened the mirror dimension to protect the temple and fought the enemies inside. However, the mirror dimension was Kaecilius's domain, where his dark powers were greatly enhanced. With a wave of his hands, he duplicated and split the entire space. Seeing the situation worsen, they quickly escaped outside. Meanwhile, the streets experienced a mirror timefold. Although Kaecilius couldn't affect the real world, he could still kill him here. Stephen ran while drawing a portal to escape, but Kaecilius controlled it. The mirror dimension flipped, blocking their entry into the portal. They jumped onto the wall, and Stephen tried to open the portal again. Kaecilius struck, making the building ripple like waves. Under powerful spells, the entire city twisted, with the ground and city flipping upside down. The space was complex and intertwined, making it hard to tell sky from ground. Stephen and Mordo were no match. After a dazzling parkour, Stephen was caught by Kaecilius. At the critical moment, Stephen and Mordo were suddenly freed by another force. Turning around, the Sorcerer Supreme in a yellow robe appeared. The Ancient One swiftly restructured the space with a magic fan. A dark energy mark appeared on the Ancient One's forehead. Seeing this, Mordo finally believed the Ancient One drew power from the dark, shattering his faith. The Ancient One couldn't explain and directly fought the enemies. The strongest sorcerer fought effortlessly, unmatched in the mirror dimension. Every move was powerful. Facing his former follower, the Ancient One hesitated. Kaecilius seized the chance, drawing a sword with one hand, piercing the Ancient One, and kicked him out of the mirror dimension. Stephen and Mordo rushed out but were too late. The Ancient One fell heavily from the building. By the time they reached the hospital, the Ancient One's heart had stopped. Stephen suddenly realized something and astral projected, seeing the Ancient One's soul. Leaving the body, he hurriedly followed. They ended up on a balcony for a soul conversation. The Ancient One told Stephen he didn't want to draw power from the dark dimension, but to protect peace, he had to enhance his magic this way. He spent years peering into the future, and here is where his life ends. He prevented countless terrible events and grew weary of absorbing dark energy. It's time to lay down the burden. Although the Ancient One didn't see Stephen's future, he saw Stephen's limitless potential. He told Stephen that the meaning of life isn't about oneself, whether to heal his hands and return to his life or to dedicate himself to a higher purpose. The choice is in Stephen's hands. The Ancient One hoped Stephen would take his place, protect the Sanctum from Kaecilius. Only by breaking the norm can Dormammu be defeated. Otherwise, without Earth's shield, Dormammu will come. After explaining everything to Stephen, the Ancient One disappeared completely. The Ancient One's death made Stephen more aware of his responsibilities. Thus, he took over the Ancient One's duty to protect the world, becoming the new Sorcerer Supreme. Now, only the last Sanctum in Hong Kong remains. When Stephen and Mordo arrived, the Sanctum had already collapsed. Everything was over. Dormammu's dark dimension was spreading towards Earth. Kaecilius and his followers also felt it. At this moment, Stephen remembered what the Ancient One had said and decided to break the norm, reopening the Eye of Agamotto. Using the power of the Time Stone, he reversed time. Kaecilius and his followers, using Dormammu's power to transcend time, won from the time reversal Stephen created. During the fight with Stephen and Mordo, Kaecilius and his followers were gradually sealed. Just as the Sanctum was about to be restored, Kaecilius burst out from the wall and shattered the ground with a palm strike. Stephen fell to the ground, and the time array was broken. The surrounding space and time were frozen. They entered a world beyond time. To break the deadlock, Stephen flew into the dark dimension to find Dormammu and set a time loop spell in advance. He decided to negotiate with Dormammu face to face, but Dormammu, seeing the doctor, wasted no time and killed him instantly. However, the next second, the doctor appeared alive again, saying the same line. Dormammu was very surprised but killed Steven instantly again. Thanks to the time loop spell, the doctor returned and told Dormammu that if they couldn't reach an agreement, they would meet in an infinite loop in the future. This statement still didn't convince Dormammu, resulting in another instant kill. After countless loops and instant kills, Dormammu finally couldn't take it anymore. To get rid of Dormammu, the doctor agreed to take his followers and leave Earth forever. After the doctor returned, Cassie and the others retreated, their bodies absorbed into a dark space, as if cast into hell, forever following Dormammu. The doctor then restarted the time spell, restoring the temple and normalizing time and space, as if nothing had happened. The doctor became the only superhero who saved the world with words. However, Mordo was angry at Steven for breaking the natural laws. Like the Ancient One, Steven broke the rules and would eventually pay the price. Due to differences in beliefs and principles, Mordo chose to part ways with the doctor. After returning to the Magic Academy, Steven placed the Eye of Agamotto back in the library. Wong said it was wise because carrying an Infinity Stone around the streets was indeed dangerous. Steven looked puzzled and asked Wong what an Infinity Stone meant. Wong said, "Though you're talented, there's still much to learn. The Ancient One's death will soon be known across the multiverse. Enemies who once dared not invade may already be stirring, so they must always be ready for battle." Steven returned to the New York Sanctum, looking at his still scarred hands. He chose not to heal them and return to normal life but to dedicate himself as the world's guardian. At the film's end, Thor visited the New York Sanctum, and Steven offered him a glass of infinite beer. In their conversation, it was revealed that Thor and Loki came to Earth to find Odin. Steven stated that Loki is already on Earth's blacklist, and if he helps find Odin, Thor must quickly take Loki off Earth. Elsewhere, a disillusioned Mordo found the man who had used magic to heal his disability and absorbed his magic. It turned out his body wasn't truly healed. He had been using magic to support his lower body. Thus, Mordo's turn to darkness sets the stage for Doctor Strange 2.